Last summer, I moved into my grandmother's old Victorian house. I was 34, leaving my busy city life behind to take care of her. The house was once vibrant, but now it felt cold and lonely. I thought it would give me clarity. Instead, it felt wrong that in the attic, I found dusty boxes filled with old things. Among them, I discovered a faded letter from my grandmother. She mentioned the twins who lived next door. I was confused. Who were they? That night, while looking out the window, I saw two shadowy figures playing in my backyard. I blinked, and they vanished. My heart raced. I convinced myself I was imagining things, but the feeling of being watched wouldn't go away. Days passed, and I started hearing soft giggles echoing in the walls. It was strange, like whispers carried by the wind. I thought it was just the house settling. Yet every time I turned a corner, I caught glimpses of the twins. They appeared when the sun faded, flickering like a bad TV signal. I tried to ask the neighbors about them, but they avoided my eyes. Their faces went pale. I thought they were just superstitious and didn't want to frighten me. I was wrong. One evening, while eating dinner, I heard laughter high-pitched and playful. It felt so close, like the twins were right behind me. I spun around, but there was nothing. Just the empty kitchen and the creaking floorboards. Every day, I felt my grandmother had warned me about something. But I couldn't figure out what it was. Maybe it was just local folklore marring my mind. I didn't want to believe in ghosts. Then one night, it happened again. I stood in the hallway and saw them, two little girls at the end, staring at me with wide, curious eyes. I blinked, and they were gone. My skin prickled. I felt cold all over. Their giggles echoed in my head, growing louder and more insistent that I decided to dig deeper into my grandmother's history. I found old photo albums filled with smiling faces. But every picture of the twins was scratched out. Dread washed over me. What did she know? By week's end, my heart raced at every creak and whisper. I wondered if I was losing my mind or if the twins were real. That night, I decided to face whatever was out there. I opened the back door, my hands shaking. I stepped outside, glancing around. Darkness enveloped me, and the laughter echoed everywhere. Then I remembered my grandmother's warnings. I wasn't sure of the truth anymore. I turned to go back inside when I heard one last giggle chilling and close. It whispered my name, pulling me toward it. I asked, "Are you here?" My heart nearly stopped as I turned. Nobody stood there. Just the shadows of the trees whispered back that I slammed the door shut and leaned against it. I didn't feel safe. I thought I could handle it, but a deep fear took hold. That night, I couldn't sleep. I never understood my grandmother's warning, but I knew one thing: something in that house wanted me. The following morning, I woke up late. The sun streamed through the dusty curtains, but I felt no warmth. The shadows still lingered in my mind. I needed answers. I grabbed a cup of coffee and went outside. The yard looked normal, too normal. But everything felt different. With the weight of my fear that I headed next door to my neighbor's house, hoping I could finally get some information about the twins. I knocked on the door, taking a steadying breath. An older woman answered, her gray hair frizzing around her face. Her eyes widened slightly, and I noticed her grip on the door tightened. Hi. I'm the new neighbor," I said, trying to sound casual. "I was wondering if you knew anything about the twins who used to live here." Her expression shifted to one of unease. "Best not to talk about them." "Why?" I pressed, needing to know more. It's been a long time. We don't mention them anymore. It's safer that way." "Safer?" I felt frustrated. "What happened?" She shook her head, her thin lips pursed. "Nothing good. You should leave them alone." Then, she quickly shut the door, leaving me standing on the porch, baffled. I returned home, my heart still racing. Whatever happened with the twins left a mark on the town. I had to confront this. I considered looking through my grandmother's belongings again. Maybe there were more clues. As I rummaged through the attic that afternoon, I stumbled upon another box, smaller this time. Inside, I found a diary. It looked old and fragile, but it felt significant. I opened it and began reading. The entries were written in my grandmother's neat script. Most of it was mundane, details about her daily life. But as I read on, the tone shifted. She wrote about the twins with a sense of dread. They seemed to be getting closer, one entry read. I can hear them at night, laughing and calling out. I tried to ignore them, but they are persistent. I pray they don't come for me. My stomach dropped. Each turning page revealed more warnings, more fear. It seemed my grandmother had sensed a threat, one that lingered in the house long after the twins had left. I closed the diary, my hands trembling. I thought I was prepared to face whatever haunted my grandmother, but now I wasn't so sure. The giggles from the night before echoed in my mind like a haunting melody, twisting the knife of dread deeper into my gut. As evening approached, I once again felt the need to confront the twins. I had to see them. I dressed quickly, a flurry of determination masking my fear. I stepped outside, the chill of dusk wrapping around me. When I saw it, a flash of white darting between the trees in my backyard. Heart pounding, I called out. Is someone there? Silence blanketed the night, but I could sense their presence. I felt my breath hitch in my throat. Just as I decided to retreat, the laughter filled the air, more distant this time, but unmistakably close. Somebody was definitely in the house. I stood frozen, heart racing, as shadows shifted in my backyard. The laughter faded into an eerie silence, replaced by an unsettling stillness that pressed against my senses. I gripped the doorframe, torn between the urge to explore and the instinct to retreat. With a deep breath, I turned and rushed back inside, shutting the door behind me with a soft click. My ears strained against the quiet, listening for any sign of movement. Was that laughter? Or just the echo of my own fears? I shook my head, trying to silence the rising tide of anxiety that I darted to the windows, pulling back the curtains. The yard was cloaked in darkness now, only faint moonlight filtering through the trees. Nothing appeared out of place, but I felt the weight of being watched. I needed answers, and I wasn't going to find them hiding in my house. Taking a deep breath, I grabbed a flashlight and stepped outside again. The chill of the night nipped at my skin, but adrenaline kept me warm. I ventured into the trees where I'd seen the flash of white, my pulse quickening with each step. Hello. I called out, my voice shaky. I know you're there. This time, the silence responded. Then suddenly, I saw it again, a glimpse of movement. My heart raced even faster as I followed the flicker, pushing deeper through the underbrush. My flashlight bobbed in the dim light, illuminating a narrow path lined with twisted roots and fallen leaves. The laughter returned, more pronounced this time, a cheerful sound that felt completely wrong against the backdrop of night. I felt an unsettling mixture of curiosity and dread. What was so alluring about those voices? Who were they? As I neared the clearing, I stumbled upon two small figures standing just beyond the reach of my light. My breath caught in my throat. They were the twins, indistinguishable from one another, with pale skin and dark hair that cascaded down their shoulders. They wore old-fashioned white dresses that fluttered softly in the breeze. Come play with us, one of them whispered, her voice honeyed and laced with something sinister. Please, the other chimed in, her eyes sparkling mischievously. I hesitated, caught between the dark energy radiating from them and the strange pull in my chest. Why? What do you want? They exchanged glances, grinning wide, their teeth white against the shadows. Things are better when we're together, they said in unison, a chorus that sent chills down my spine. I could feel that eerie sense of familiarity resonating in the back of my mind, like a distant memory. Just then, I thought of my grandmother's diary, the warnings, the fear. I'm not like you, I said, backing away slowly. Not yet, they whispered back, their voices echoing around me, wrapping me in tendrils of dread. As I turned to run, everything went dark. The flashlight flickered and died, leaving me in sheer blackness. I could hear their giggles closing in. There was no escape. Someone was in the house, but it wasn't just anyone, it was the twins. And they were coming for me. The darkness swallowed me whole, heavy and suffocating. I stumbled forward, heart racing, desperately trying to find my way back to the house. I could hear their whispers, faint but growing clearer, echoing through the trees as I ran. "Come play," they called, a sweet temptation that felt as wrong as it sounded. I had to focus. I glanced back, but the shadows were a blur, and suddenly I felt a sharp thud against my shoulder. I faltered but quickly regained my footing. "Get away from me!" I shouted into the night, my voice sounding weak even to my own ears. But that only seemed to make them laugh louder, an unsettling chorus that chased me through the darkness that I burst through the trees and stumbled onto the path that led back to my house. Relief washed over me, but I couldn't let my guard down. The twins were close. They were always close. My feet pounded the ground as I sprinted toward the door, fumbling for the handle in the dark. Once inside, I pressed my back against the door and locked it, panting. My heart raced as I braced myself against the wood, expecting any moment for it to rattle or shake. I strained to listen. The night was still, but I knew they were out there, watching me, waiting for me to slip up. A low giggle made my skin crawl, sending chills up my spine. I turned toward the hallway light, flickering erratically. My mind raced back to the diary in my grandmother's house. What had she written? I needed to find it, to understand what was happening. Maybe she had answers. I sprinted to the living room, ignoring the cold draft that slipped through the cracks of the window. I grabbed my phone off the couch and switched on the flashlight app, illuminating the room with a weak glow. But the comfort of light flickered unintentionally, reminding me of my situation. Then I remembered, my grandmother kept the diary in the attic. I had avoided that place, unnerved by the creaky stairs and the stories my grandma used to tell about it. What if the twins had already been there? What if they had taken the diary? I took a deep breath and made my way to the attic, moving as quietly as I could. Each step creaked beneath my feet, but I pressed on. I couldn't show fear. I reached the top, pushing the door open slowly. The attic was dim, the moonlight filtering through a single small window. I scanned the room and spotted the dusty trunk in the corner. The diary was in there, I was sure of it. But just as I made my way to the trunk, I froze. I heard it, a whisper, soft and sweet, just behind me. "You shouldn't have come up here." I turned slowly, my pulse hammering in my ears. There stood one of the twins, her eyes glowing faintly in the dark like twin stars. A sense of dread washed over me. I was trapped between the attic walls, and I suddenly remembered the diary, the very thing that could either save me or condemn me, and then it dawned on me, I'd brought them right to it. The moment froze. Her thin smile stretched wider, revealing teeth that seemed too sharp for a child. I stepped back, trying to remain steady, but my instinct screamed at me to run. I forced myself to stay calm. "What do you want?" Her laughter tinkled like glass shattering. "You know what we want." I glanced over my shoulder at the trunk, heart racing. It was too close. I needed a distraction. "You can't have it," I said, trying to sound braver than I felt. "Oh, but we can," she whispered, inching closer. "You should have listened to your grandmother." I didn't have time to process that. I turned and lunged for the trunk, fumbling with the latch. My hands were trembling, making it difficult to grip. She was right behind me, a murmuring presence that made the air heavy. My heart drummed wildly in my chest as I finally pulled the trunk open, half expecting to find nothing but dust. Instead, the diary lay there, its cover faded but intact. I snatched it up, flipping it open, desperate for answers. "You think this will help you?" The twin hissed, her voice dripping with disdain. "It's just a book." But the pages were filled with scrawled notes, my grandmother's shaky handwriting detailing rituals and warnings. They want to play, I read aloud, panic creeping in. Don't invite them in too late, the twin said with a grin, and suddenly, I felt the temperature drop even more. The shadows shifted around me, coiling like living tendrils. All thoughts of escape vanished. I stumbled backward, clutching the diary to my chest. With every word I read, the whispers outside the attic grew louder, morphing into taunts. Come play with us. You can't hide. I turned to face her again. Stay back. She giggled, the sound echoing unnaturally in the small space. You'd rather hide than join us? What a bore. A flicker of movement caught my eye from the corner window. I saw them figures shifting outside, their forms partially obscured by the moonlight. The other twin stood there, just beyond the glass, watching, grinning that I was trapped. Behind me, the trunk held the secrets I needed, but I couldn't think of that now. I needed to get out. I had to find a way to escape before they closed in. Leave me alone. I screamed, slamming the diary shut. It felt like a lifeline, but I had no time to revel in it. In defiance, I hurled the book toward the window. It hit with a thud and fell to the floor, pages flapping open like wings. They stared at it but didn't move, momentarily confused that I seized my chance. I dashed past the twins, ignoring the chill emanating from them, and bolted toward the attic door. My heart raced as I swung it open and stumbled down the creaking stairs. Just as I reached the bottom, I could hear their soft laughter behind me, a sound that twisted itself into something more sinister. You can't escape what you've invited. That was when the entire house trembled. Everything turned dark around me, as if the air itself was pushing against the walls. The laughter roared, filling every corner of my mind. I had to find a way to break their hold before it was too late. I suddenly realized, whatever I had done, this was just the beginning. I stumbled into the hallway, breathless and wide-eyed. The laughter echoed behind me, following me like a shadow. I could barely think, my mind racing faster than my feet. I had to get out of the house or at least find somewhere safe to regroup. The front door seemed like an impossible distance away. I sprinted down the hall, heart pounding, and skidded to a stop at the living room entrance. The door to the outside was only a few feet away, but the space felt suffocating. I stepped inside, glancing around for any sign of those twins. The room was dark, the only light filtering through the dusty windows. Shadows lurked in every corner, stretching and bending like they had a life of their own. I took a deep breath and stepped forward, trying to quiet the trembling in my hands. That was when something caught my eye, a flicker of movement near the fireplace. My pulse quickened again as I noticed a familiar object on the mantel, a small brass bell I had always thought was a mere decoration. My grandmother used to tell stories about its origin, how it was once part of a charm to keep spirits away. Why is it here? I murmured, reaching up to grasp it. Just as my fingers curled around the cool metal, a loud bang reverberated through the house. I jumped, heart racing. The door to the attic slammed shut, as if something unseen had wrenched it closed. The noise sent a chill down my spine. I needed to do something fast. The bell felt heavy in my palm, as if it were alive. I remembered my grandmother's words, use it when things get strange. Maybe I was finally understanding her warnings. I clutched the bell tightly and turned, ready to face whatever was about to come at me. You can't have me. I shouted into the empty room. The air grew thick, and I could sense the presence gathering again, shadows converging like a storm. Then, a voice, sweet and sinister, echoed from the darkness. But you're already ours. I gasped, looking around for the source. I felt trapped, an animal cornered by unseen hunters. My instincts screamed at me to run, but I held my ground, focusing on the bell. I needed to be brave. Suddenly, I heard a soft whisper, barely audible. Ring it. I hesitated, doubt creeping in. Would it really help? The only response I received was more laughter, a chorus of malicious glee that sent ice through me. I didn't have a choice. With a deep breath, I raised the bell and rang it hard. The sound pierced the heavy air, a clear, crisp note that echoed through the room. The laughter faltered. I froze, watching as the shadows recoiled, momentarily disrupted. Whatever magic the bell had still held made the twins hesitate. But just as fast as the tension broke, the darkness surged forward again. I could feel the air grow colder, wrapping around me like a vice. "You can't stop us." The twin-'s voice shrieked, sharper now, furious. Then everything went dark. I felt myself being pulled, dragged backward, as the world spun. And then I found myself in another room, one I had never seen before. A flicker of dim light illuminated the space, revealing family portraits on the walls, but they weren't just memories captured in time. They were eyes watchful, knowing that I realized then, with a gut-wrenching certainty, that my fight was far from over. I was not just in another room, I had stumbled deeper into something I would never understand. But I was determined to find a way out. And somewhere, lurking just out of sight, I knew the twins were waiting for me to make my next move. The dim light flickered like a candle about to go out. I felt the weight of those portraits watching me, their eyes seeming to follow my every move. The room smelled musty, like secrets long buried. I took a cautious step forward, the floorboards creaking beneath me. That I scanned the walls, searching for a way out. There were no windows, just shelves lined with dusty books that whispered tales of the past. Each title felt ominous, promising strange knowledge I wasn't sure I wanted. The laughter from before echoed faintly in the background, a reminder that I wasn't alone. That I steadied my breath and turned to the door I had arrived through, but it had vanished. In its place, a bare wall loomed, smooth and unbroken. Panic surged, but I forced myself to breathe slowly. I wasn't trapped. Maybe I just needed to think. Then, I spotted it on a small table in the corner. An old, silver key lay glinting in the foggy light. My heart raced again, this time for a different reason. Could it be the key to my escape? I rushed over, my hands trembling again as I picked it up. The metal was cold, reassuringly solid against my skin. I examined it closely, intricate designs snaked around the handle, and I felt a strange pulse of energy coursing through it. "Where do you belong?" I whispered to no one in particular. As if in answer, the air shifted again, coldness creeping back around me. I could almost hear faint giggles, growing louder and more menacing. My instinct screamed to run again, but I was drawn to the key. It felt important, like it held the answers to my questions. Searching for a lock, I moved closer to the portraits. My gaze fell on one painted in soft pastels, a girl with flowing hair and sad eyes. Something about her resonated with me. I stepped in closer, and the moment I did, the laughter turned to outright cackles. "What are you doing?" a voice hissed. I shivered, stepping back. I noticed, for the first time, a small outline beneath the girl's portrait, a keyhole concealed within the frame. My heart thudded loudly in my chest. Was this it? "Don't!" the voice cried, sharper now, filled with fear and fury. Ignoring the warning, I approached the painting. My hands shook, but I couldn't back down. I fit the key into the hole, almost as if the two belonged together. With a twist, I heard a click, a sound that reverberated through my bones. Suddenly, the laughter ceased. A silence enveloped me, thick and heavy. I held my breath, anxiety swirling in my gut. I pulled the key out cautiously, and the portrait swung open like a door, revealing a dark passageway beyond. "What is this?" I muttered, peering into the gloom. But before I could step forward, a gust of wind blasted past me, extinguishing the dim light. The darkness rushed in, swallowing everything whole. In that moment, I felt a pull from behind, as if the twins were trying to drag me back. Determined, I took a step into the unknown, adrenaline surging. Whatever weighted down that passage had to be better than the laughter that still echoed in my head. But as I disappeared into the blackness, a chilling thought struck me: what if I was heading right into their trap? The sound of laughter returned, sharp and delighted. I steeled myself, knowing that whatever awaited me would be more dangerous than I had ever imagined. The darkness felt alive, shifting and swirling around me like a thick fog. I squinted, trying to adjust my eyes, but there was no light to guide me. Opening my mouth to call out, I hesitated. What if the laughter returned? I took another cautious step forward. The floor felt different here, smooth and cold, the texture changing beneath my feet. I reached out, fingers grazing the rough stone walls beside me. The air was stale, heavy with a dampness that made it hard to breathe. I couldn't see anything, but I could hear whispers swirling around me. They were low and uncertain, snippets of words echoing off the walls. Come play, one voice urged, coaxing me deeper into the void. No. I replied, my voice stronger than I felt. The laughter faded momentarily, only to return stronger, like a wave crashing against the shore. Then I saw it, a sliver of light breaking through the darkness ahead. I moved toward it, desire for escape pushing me forward. The whispers turned to a chorus, chanting unintelligible phrases, filled with a cruel amusement. My heart pounded louder with each step, fear mixing with something unnameably enticing. As I neared the light, I could see a door splitting the passage in front of me. It was slightly ajar, the beam spilling out like a golden invitation. There was a shadow just beyond it, flickering with each small movement. I paused, uncertainty clutching at my throat. Don't be afraid, the voice urged again, softer this time, almost sweet. I swallowed hard. What do you want from me? I called, challenging the shadow that lay just beyond. What do we want? It laughed, a tinkling sound that turned sinister. We want you to see. With a burst of courage, I pushed the door wider and stepped into the light. It was brighter than I had imagined, flooding the room with warmth. But the joy quickly drained away as I took in the scene before me. In the center stood two figures, unmistakably twins. Their identical grins were wide, stretching unnaturally across their faces. They wore matching dresses, frayed at the edges, with hair that flowed like ivy down their backs. They looked like they belonged in a fairy tale until you saw their eyes, dark and hollow, devoid of any warmth. Welcome. They chimed together, their voices in perfect harmony. We've been waiting for you. What do you mean waiting? I asked, backing up instinctively. Waiting to play. One of them twirled, their dress spinning like a whirlwind. The game is simple. You either join us, or you don't. I felt cold sweat trickle down my back, the laughter from before echoing in my mind. I'm not here to play. I retorted, but even as I spoke, a flicker in their expressions made me doubt myself. Are you sure? The other twin asked, stepping forward. Because the door behind you won't open again until you choose. My pulse quickened. I searched for an escape, my mind racing. I had to think there must be a way out of this. But my options were dwindling, and the walls felt like they were closing in. Then I spotted a small, glimmering object near the twins' feet. It was my key, the one I had bravely taken from the dusty table. I lunged for it, desperate to reclaim my chance for freedom. But something stopped me cold. The mischievous spark in the twins' eyes shifted to something darker, more predatory. Careful, one twin said. You wouldn't want to lose that before the game begins. As they moved closer, the shadows in the room deepened, and the laughter grew louder, echoing my heart's dread. I was not just facing a choice, I was standing on the edge of something much worse. And I had no idea what would happen next. I stood frozen, the tension thick enough to slice through. The twins lingered at the edge of my vision, their smiles transforming as they sensed my fear. Join us, one whispered, her eyes glinting like shattered glass. It'll be fun. I clenched my fists at my sides, determined not to show them how scared I was. I'm not afraid, I said, though my voice trembled. The key lay tantalizingly close to me, but it felt like a trap rather than an escape. Then prove it, the other twin taunted, tilting her head. If you're not afraid, play our game. Their voices turned syrupy and sweet, but I detected something darker beneath. I had to think. The walls were painted with shadows that flickered and danced, echoing the growing laughter. It surrounded me, swarming my thoughts like insects drawn to a flame. "Tell me the rules first," I demanded, trying to buy time. The twins exchanged glances, a shared look that made my stomach roll. "Rules? Oh, we don't have many," one said, feigning innocence. "Just a simple game of hide and seek. You hide, we seek. But if we find you," she trailed off with a smile that could curdle milk. "What happens if you find me?" I asked, though I feared the answer. "Let's just say you want to be found." Their laughter rang out, a chorus that seemed to warp the very air around us. I felt the chill seep into my bones. "No." I shot back, anger igniting my fear. "I refuse to play your sick game." I backed away, searching desperately for another way out, but the shadows gathered, forming a wall that pushed me closer to the twins. "Sorry, dear," one twin said. "You don't get to choose." Before I could react, they lunged for me, fingers outstretched. I instinctively dodged left, and in the chaos, I stumbled over my own feet. Pain shot through my ankle as I landed hard on the floor, the laughter echoing around me like a wild storm. I reached for the key, its cool surface grounding me. As I struggled to stand, a sudden thought struck me. I wasn't just hiding, I was standing in the very heart of their game. The light from the door flickered behind me, offering a glimmer of escape. If I could just get to it, I wouldn't have to face these sinister beings any longer, but before I could move, the twins closed in, their presence suffocating. "Ready or not, here we come," they sang as they spread out, like a dark shadow enveloping the room. My heart raced as I looked back to the open door, the warm light now dimming. I had to make a choice, but before I could act, I heard a creaking sound. My eyes shot back to the door, and my heart dropped. Someone, I realized, horrified. Someone was inside the room with me. Before I could react, the twins turned their heads sharply, their eyes fixating on a corner of the room. "No one invited you," one hissed, her voice cold like winter ice. That's when I saw it, a figure emerging from the shadows, slipping into the edges of the light. A shiver ran through me as I realized this new presence wasn't friendly. The laughter faded, replaced by a heavy silence, pregnant with dread. Now, my fight wasn't just to escape the twins, but to survive whatever else lurked in the darkness. I wasn't sure how long I could hold my ground, but I knew one thing: I had to get out of there. My heart thudded painfully against my ribs as I watched the figure step into the dim light. It was tall, its features obscured by shifting shadows. I barely had time to register what I was seeing before the twins turned their full attention towards it, their expressions shifting from joy to something darker, more predatory. "Leave," one of the twins hissed, her voice low and dangerous. "This is our game. You weren't invited." The figure didn't respond, merely advancing with a slow, deliberate gait, exuding an aura of unyielding menace. My instincts screamed at me to run, but I knew there was nowhere to go. I stood frozen, torn between fear and the realization that this stranger might be my only ally in a place overflowing with malice. The light flickered again as the newcomer stepped closer. In those fleeting moments, I saw clarity in its eyes, a sharp contrast to the twins' chaotic energy. "I'm here to help," it said, the voice deep and rumbling like distant thunder. "But you must trust me." "Trust?" I stammered, uncertainty coursing through me. Still, there was something compelling about the figure that drew me in, a ray of hope against the suffocating darkness. "What do you want with me?" Without waiting for an answer, the twins lunged, but the figure moved too swiftly. In a blink, it had positioned itself between me and the twins, arms extending in a protective manner. "Not today," it growled, and with that, the imbalance in the air shifted. The twins hesitated, their laughter turning into something confused and agitated, fading into irritated whispers. "You shouldn't have come back," the other twin spat, eyes glaring, moist with anger. Yet, there was an edge of uncertainty in their demeanor, as if my presence and now the figure had unsettled a delicate balance. Suddenly, the room trembled, and from my peripheral vision, I saw the wall closest to the twins begin to ripple, as if the very fabric of reality was about to tear apart. "We need to go," the figure urged. "Now." Without waiting for my response, it took my hand and shoved me toward the door, flickering dimly in the chaos. I could hear the twins' frustrated giggles erupting around us, their energy swirling like a vortex of darkness, seeking to claim me once more. Within seconds, we burst through the doorway and into blinding light. I blinked against the brightness, scarcely believing my surroundings had changed so dramatically. We stood beneath an open sky, dim, but unfathomably liberating compared to the clutches of the house. My heart raced, but I couldn't relax just yet. "Are we safe?" I gasped, still holding my rescuer's hand. "For now," it replied, glancing over its shoulder. "But you aren't out of the woods yet." I looked back toward where we emerged. The house stood ominously behind us, a hulking presence veiled in shadow, casting a long, dark shadow over the lawn. It seemed alive, pulsating with an energy that echoed of the twins' laughter, still ringing in my ears. "What are they?" I asked, my heart sinking. The reality weighed heavy, the knowledge that the twins could reach me when the stars aligned and the sun slept. Would I ever truly be free? "Twins that feed on fear," the figure answered, looking more solemn. "They latch on to those who are even the slightest bit lost, dragging them deeper into their games. Your grandmother sensed it. Why didn't she protect me?" I whispered, the sting of betrayal rippling through me. "She tried," it said. "But some things are beyond even the strongest of protections." As I tried to process this, the figure turned toward me, those piercing eyes searching my expression. "You need to be cautious. They could come back at any moment." I broke away, surveying the surroundings as panic clawed at my throat. I thought about my grandmother, about the diary, the bell. Hope felt like a flicker, so fragile yet persistent. The twins would try to reclaim their hold over me, I had no doubt about that. "What now?" I asked, dread creeping into my heart, knowing we were marred by an enigmatic danger that refused to fade. The figure remained stoic. "You must confront what they've awakened in you. Use your grandmother's words to shield yourself. Ring the bell." I stared, realization washing over me like ice water. I clutched the bell, my connection back to that dark history, the tangible tether to the place I had just escaped. "Will it be enough?" I asked, racked by uncertainty. "Only if you believe it is." A creeping chill slipped through me as I sensed the shadows behind us shifting once more, the twins' laughter echoing through the inky blackness, still close by. I could sense their intention, a creeping dread that soaked into my bones. This was only the beginning. "I'm not afraid," I murmured, steeling myself with newfound resolve. The twins would come for me, drawn to my fears like moths to a flame, but I would stand my ground. I may not have all the answers, but the fight was far from over. And as the horizon wore the first hints of dawn, I knew one thing: I wouldn't be facing them alone, and I would remember what my grandmother had taught me. In that moment, I chose to step forward, determined to reclaim my fate. The twins might be relentless, but I would not yield.